Hello, and welcome to the Beyond Borders podcast, the podcast that explores topics related to international trade. This podcast is brought to you by Buckland. For over 70 years, Buckland has been working to help companies across the world experience global trade in a better way. As a customer-focused company, we provide you with a single source of unmatched customs brokerage, trade managed solutions, freight forwarding, trade technologies, and warehousing and distribution services. I'm your host, Jenny Kaus, and today I'm speaking with our very special guest, Michelle Snyder. Michelle is Buckland's Director of Compliance and Consulting and has been with Buckland for 3 years, and she has 2 decades of experience in international trade. Michelle has a depth of knowledge in customs regulations, trade compliance, supply chain management, and international logistics. Michelle, thank you for joining us today to discuss compliance.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
So today we're discussing compliance, and I'm wondering if you can kind of start at the beginning and explain to us what it means to be compliant.
Well, in general, the idea of being compliant is really just exercising due diligence and reasonable care and demonstrating that you are observing the laws and regulations that govern your international business.
Great. And I guess the flip side of this, if that's what that means to be compliant, what are the risks of not being compliant?
Yes, it depends on, of course, where those areas are demonstrated that you're failing, and who's observing them. But in essence, it could result in shipments being detained at the border, increased inspections, disruption in the supply chain, which could possibly result in chargebacks from your customers. It could even lead up to fines and penalties, and ultimately, well, maybe not ultimately, but it definitely does have an impact on your reputation and how you are able to retain or receive new contracts.
Great. And I would imagine for most companies, the threat of penalties would be a pretty big driver on why they would want to stay compliant.
Oh, absolutely. And we generally see that it's that threat that is what prompts them to seek outside counsel.
Absolutely. And so that outside counsel is something that Buckland provides?
Absolutely.
Great. And so if my understanding is correct, Buckland we have a whole compliance department that offers a range of services. Can you kind of give us a high level what those services are?
Oh, absolutely. So we do focus more on our core competencies right now. Those, we call them the 3 pillars of compliance, and what we focus on is the classification, the HS codes, which really, to me, in my opinion, is the cornerstone of any compliance program, because it really is the driving force for the remaining, which would be qualification for FTAs, which is free trade agreements. Okay. Customers would want to pursue free trade agreements to seek preferential treatment and avoid duty spend on imports or pass that along to their customers. Mm-hmm. And then the third pillar, of course, would be solicitation. And that's generally needed either for border cross parts to save money at the border at the time of entry, or for the qualification purposes that they're spending for their own program or for their customers.
Great, thank you. So now that we have an understanding of what services are available, why would a business out there want to solicit these services from us?
Well, generally speaking, we do see a trend in the industry that they don't necessarily have a budget for this, and they want to bring this type of work in-house for compliance. But the problem is that along with that expectation, there's no real dedication to those job functions within a company, not normally. So with that, there's no training, there's no experience or expertise that's really provided with that, which can cause problems in terms of exercising reasonable care and due diligence. The benefit of outsourcing that is that you are receiving advice, professional advice from people that have years of experience, dedicated training. This is what we do. This is what we do all day, every day. Mm-hmm. And just outsourcing that work does exercise a level of reasonable care and due diligence. If customers was to come in and look at you, you can show that you are doing everything that you can, going above and beyond by contracting out with a professional.
Absolutely.
To draft procedures and do all of the things that you need to do.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. So if someone is looking for to hire someone such as a customs broker or a trade compliance company to handle these types of services for them, and we were talking about Buckland, what is it that makes Buckland's services different?
Well, one of the things that Buckland prides ourselves on, and I truly believe, is that, we go above and beyond in customer service. We really, truly look to build the relationship first. We're not looking to just offer any of the services that we offer if they don't make sense for our customers. We want to work with them. We want to build synergies. We want to review their programs and find opportunities that they haven't been able to find on their own. Mm-hmm. So I do think that is definitely something that helps us stand out from the rest, is because it's truly relationship based.
Mm-hmm. And I think what I've seen from my prior conversations on the last two podcasts as well is Buckland is really a trusted partner, is the real message that I'm seeing. And when someone brings Buckland on board as a service provider, they're getting a trusted partner, not just another service provider. It's someone that they can trust and go to with their questions, who they know has expertise.
Absolutely. I agree with that 100%. The focus truly is on partnership.
Excellent. So in talking about those three areas, we touched on the three areas that Buckland can provide assistance with. Now I'm hoping that what we can do is kind of go in depth a little bit more in each one of those. And the first one that I'm hoping we can talk about is classification. So can you offer a bit of an overview of classification?
Yeah, generally, classification, it's basically an assignment of a number from a harmonized tariff schedule to a product. That number is what drives whatever duty rate based on whatever country is going to be applied at the time of entry. Our department classifies for multiple countries, and even though it's a harmonized system, there are variances. There's differences in interpretation from country to country. Okay. Generally speaking, they're relatively consistent, but they can be different. And that's where our expertise comes in to benefit our customers as well, is that we will, we'll draft rulings if that's what's necessary, and we'll provide very in-depth audit trails that will support them under any scrutiny from customs whatsoever. And primarily in Canada, Mexico, and U.S. is where we are most heavily focused right now, but it really can be anywhere that is needed.
So every country has their own kind of set of these tariff numbers that you will apply goods to.
Absolutely. Well, again, it does try to align with the harmonized system, but I focus on the try because obviously every country has their own interpretation of those regulations.
Sure. Okay, great. Thank you. You mentioned that classification is the cornerstone of the other functions. Where would those be impacted?
Well, yes. So while HTS determines the duty rate applied at import, it's also it's a driving force for other special projects or PGAs or OGAs,
and
things like
PGA? That. Partner government agencies?
Yeah, that's right.
And I'm actually looking here at my Common Logistics acronyms cheat sheet. And that is something, if you don't mind me interrupting, just for our listeners, that's something that's available on the learning section of our website, because there are so many acronyms in this industry, and it's something that I've had to heavily rely on as I build my understanding of this industry. So feel free to visit the learning guide section of buckland.com to download your own copy of the Logistics Common Acronyms Guide to decode a lot of the terms that you might hear on this podcast today. So sorry to interrupt with that, but I just wanted to provide that resource to our listeners.
No, thank you. It also is a driving factor, a significant driving factor for the FTA eligibility determinations.
Oh, okay.
Which is, of course, another area of focus that we have within our group, and I'll touch on that in just a minute. Great. I do want to make mention, if I can, though, that one of the things that Buckland has that may also be unique to other companies when considering Buckland for its services is we do have a homegrown custom software that we built. It's called the Gateway.
Oh, wow.
And what we do is we store all of the classification determinations that we've been responsible for making for our customers, and along with that we store the full audit trail.
Wow.
And we keep the history, so as things change you can go back at any given time, which is very beneficial to our customers. As you might have some change to your part mid-year, and customs might ask you for a verification review and they want to check a classification that's changed, and you have that audit trail from the history back from, say, January. Great. And maybe it's changed in June. So wow. It's a great feature, and it's accessible through the web portal to all of our customers, so they can go on and they can look at all of the work that we performed. And it also speaks directly to our operations group, and we provide daily feeds from all of the work that we perform, any classifications, to our operations group, and we actually provide it to outside customers as well.
Oh, that's a great value add for our customers, for sure, to Absolutely. Have that available. Mm-hmm. Okay, so I think that helps us understand kind of the classification part of things. The next one that I would like to talk about is the free trade agreement qualification. Can you give us an overview of qualification?
Yeah, so obviously our customers would prefer to pay as little duty as possible, which Absolutely. Is why they pursue the opportunity to try to qualify for a free trade agreement.
And free trade agreements are something that are very popular in the news right now with everything happening with NAFTA, so this is very topical.
Absolutely, which that does keep us on our toes, by the way.
Yeah.
While we try to keep as current as possible, we're covering all of the different options and opportunities for them, and we're able to consult and kind of help them maneuver as they're hearing all of these updates in the news. So
Absolutely.
it's an exciting time in compliance these days.
I would imagine.
So ultimately that's why our customers seek to participate in that side of the business with us, or whether it be internally or with us. There's some variances in how they want to move forward, and we're quite flexible to meet whatever needs that they have. It might be as minimal as they only need us to solicit. They might do their own qualifications, or they don't need qualifications because they're
Sure.
working with just pass-through parts. Maybe they're not doing any manufacturing, and so they'll contract with us and say, hey, I just need you to reach out to my supply base and solicit these trade agreements. And we do solicit all of the U.S. trade agreements, all of the Mexico trade agreements, and all of the Canadian trade agreements, and we do have the capabilities to expand as needed.
Wow. Great.
It's wonderful. When we are doing the qualification for our customers, we do work with their bills of material. We work with costed bills of material. We have the technical staff on hand that helps them. Often we have to help them figure out how to pull all of that information together, and we help them set up their program and get them going and move them into an automated environment. We do have software that we use. It's called TradeBase. That's our qualification and solicitation solution, and we do have a web portal that vendors can log into and complete our requests through there.
Great.
And we also will respond when asked to for our customer requests.
Great.
And that often drives our workload in terms of, which bills of material we need to qualify, which vendors we need to go solicit. So, the workload flows in many different directions, but we are fully able to accommodate whatever's needed.
When I'm hearing all this, I'm thinking, as a business owner, I can't imagine how much having these services would take the pressure off, and the concern about free trade agreements and compliance and making sure that you're keeping everything as it should be. You had spoke about the importance of outsourcing this, and this is making it very clear to me just why it's so important to have a professional.
Absolutely. I'm biased. This is my business.
Absolutely.
This is what I do. And I see so many importers that truly struggle They've been saddled, for lack of better words, with this responsibility, and they don't really know exactly how they're supposed to maneuver. They just know that it's been mandated that they do, and they do the very best they can. And we work with them, when they reach out, or when we are able to identify, maybe it's a brokerage client, and we have some visibility, and we can reach out to them and say, let us offer you training, let us help you where we can, or identify some opportunities for you. And that's a lot of that speaks to the customer service side of the house, and how we try to build those relationships that are truly beneficial for our customers.
Absolutely. Let's talk about solicitation a little bit more. Can you give me some details on solicitation?
Yeah, so in general, what we do for our customers is, it might be that they provide us a list of parts and vendors and say, please go solicit these, or they're driven from their bills of material, and we determine what's needed for the qualifications. But one of the values that we offer to our customers, because that is such a time-consuming part of this process, that most of our customers just don't have the time and resources to deal with.
I think so, because that would be reaching out, making sure you're getting the exact right person to talk to, waiting for them to send it back. I think we've all been stuck in email chains like that, of waiting for the exchange of information to happen. So I can see why that would be so beneficial.
Absolutely. Absolutely. What we do there is we reach out to them, and we, as I said, we have a software solution, trade base, and we have a web solution. So the vendors, we will reach out to them through our software, and we will follow up with phone calls, and we walk them through our process. We try to make our process as easy as possible. I know that everyone loves working on a portal and working through software, and some people are very resistant to it, but we try to make it as user-friendly as possible, and we will sit on the phone and call and troubleshoot and do whatever we need to do to make that as a simplified process as possible. One of the other benefits of doing that is not only do we collect it through a portal, we're able to audit, make sure that everything is in alignment, that all the T's are crossed and I's are dotted, and everything is as it should be for our clients. And often we see that we have the same part that might be going to multiple locations for our client. And rather than having these isolated processes where each facility is going out, we're able to consolidate that and reach out once, and here's another really cool thing about our software. I think it's a really cool thing. Our clients can come in, they can retract a certificate that they've already submitted if there's been a change on their side. They can submit amendments. They can take it from the previous year, because we solicit every year, every blanket year. You have to resolicit. And they can take that back, and they can look at what they provided the previous year, if they provided a document in the previous year, and they can make sure that everything is exactly the same. And rather than go through all of the steps again, they can resubmit under a new blanket year. Of course, they have to sign off new and verify that all of the information is still correct. They've done all of their due diligence on their side. They've done their review, their qualifications, whatever it is that they need to do on their side. But if nothing's changed from last year to this, it's really just flipping that cert over for the year, and we have that capability. So that's a really cool feature that we have. And again, the benefit there is that, we are working with the vendors, and that takes a lot of time, energy, and resources away from our customers.
Yeah. And we want to see our customers focus on what it is that they do, and letting them be the best at what they're good at, and while we're doing the best at what we're good at, to support them. And I think that that's the cool thing I see about a lot of Buchanans services is, we're handling a lot of the tricky things that let them free up their time to run their business and make it as best as they can, and let them focus on what they're good at.
Absolutely. There is one other area that I think it's not necessarily unique, but it is definitely a value add for our customers and our vendors, or their vendors, I should say. When we're performing the classification for our customers, we solicit with that classification. And so when a vendor returns a certificate and they didn't agree with that classification, or they submitted a different classification, We then take that on behalf of our customers, and we'll take the lead on that, and we'll do the investigation, and we'll work with that vendor, and we'll show them our audit trail and the information that we've had available to us, and talk to them about where they believe it might be different, and get it to the point where we're either they change it and update their certificate so that everything is in checks and balance across, for the border cross parts, if it's a border cross. Or we'll go back to our customer and we'll say, hey, you know what, we've reviewed their documentation, and with their information, we agree, they're correct. And would you like to change? And we'll update the audit trail. And sometimes that happens. It's not it's not that often, but it does happen where our customer doesn't have the most current information from the vendor.
Sure.
So we really do act as a mediator in many cases, and we're able to facilitate that dialogue and bring resolution that they might not otherwise have.
Great. That's excellent. That is a lot of great information, and I hope that it's given our listeners a good overview of the compliance services that are available to customers and how it can benefit them. I know just going through this conversation between the two of us, I've learned a ton. So thank you so much for sharing your time and your expertise today, Michelle, and I hope we'll be able to talk to you again soon.
Absolutely. Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
That's the Beyond Borders podcast for today. Thank you so much for listening. If you're looking for resources related to international trade, visit the Buckland website at buckland.com and check out the Learning Guides section for downloadable resources ranging from Incoterms reference charts, tips for avoiding border delays, things to keep in mind when choosing a broker, and more. Please feel free to reach out to us by visiting the Contact Us page at buckland.com for more information or to receive a quote today. Thank you for listening to the Beyond Borders podcast, and be sure to subscribe for more great conversations about importing, exporting, and everything else in the world of logistics and international trade.